Rugby doesn't help itself sometimes, does it? This is one of those times a year I love the Six Nations. It gets viewed by millions of people who never watch rugby any other time, just Six Nations in a World Cup. So this is one of those times, 3 months after a World Cup, when we can really showcase what the game's about. And unfortunately, all a lot of people are talking about after the game at the weekend between Scotland and France is the farce of kick tennis. So let me just say well done to Super Rugby Pacific, who are leading the way in trying to get rid of this little scourge of the kick tennis and what has become known as Dupont's Law. Now, why Dupont's Law? Because Antoine Dupont, the world's best player, who obviously has the best rugby brain as well, because while playing for Toulouse, he identified a loophole in the law and what you are allowed to do or not allowed to do when your team are kicking. Namely, if you're in an offside position when one of your teammates kicks, that doesn't mean you have to retire, or that doesn't mean anyone has to play you onside. You can just stand dead still until the opposition player has either passed, kicked, or moved 5 metres forwards, which is what Antoine Dupont has brilliantly identified. And now we've seen it in the Scotland game at the weekend. We've seen it in the Premiership. We've seen it happening more and more. We've seen journalists picking up on this. We've seen international coaches talking about it at the weekend. What did Gregor Townsend say after the game at the weekend? He said, I've complained about the law a year ago when we played France. I think it's a terrible part of the game, and we saw it in the Bath-Gloucester game with 12 kicks in a row. I'll come to that in a second. We don't want to be a team that takes part in it. Nigel Owens, former World Cup final referee, he called it farcical, and you would have to agree. So what is Dupont's Law? What is this referring to? I kind of hate getting into the minutiae of rugby laws. It's complicated enough, and it kind of alienates casual rugby fans, but I'm banking on the fact that you're a bit of a rugby nose, as I am. So let's delve a little bit deeper into it. And by the way, if you get value from the channel, if you love your rugby, please, I'd love it if you consider hitting subscribe on the channel. I'm Tim, this is Egg Chasers, and this is the offside law, which states, it's law 10.7, and an offside player can be put onside when an onside teammate of that player moves past the offside player. That's what we've always known and understood, and is within or re-entered the playing area. So that's fine. I think that's basically what everyone thought the law was until Antoine Dupont spotted, hold on a minute, because the law also states, or a player offside can be put onside when an opponent carries the ball 5 metres, or passes, or kicks, or intentionally touches a ball without gaining possession of it. So that would refer to like a charge down. But it's the player moving 5 metres forwards, which is the one that's at play here. Because what Antoine Dupont began, and now what teams are more and more doing, is what we saw at the weekend. And let's just have a look at what we saw at the weekend. What the spectacle, big Six Nations game, tense match, very tight. And you see a bit of kick tennis now. Territory is absolutely massive in international rugby. That's no surprise, and that's no problem. There's Kyle Rowe having a kick, Thomas Ramos, and you just start to see this big congregation of about 26 out of the 30 players, all within the 2 10-metre lines in a big lump. You see Harry Patterson, great debut from him, by the way. He's about to take the ball. He kicks it, and all of the players are in the middle of the park. Another kick, Thomas Ramos there. Now, Finn Russell, you see France are not bothering to retire because all they know is they are onside again once Finn Russell either passes, kicks, or moves forward 5 metres. Of course, if Finn Russell does none of those things, those French players have to stand dead still, which is what Finn Russell identifies and takes advantage of. And you had this bizarre situation where he can take as long as he wants. He could have been stood there for 10 minutes, ended the game there if he'd wanted to. And yeah, there we go. So that is what we've seen. And Finn Russell would have had experience of this from playing for his club Bath as well. This is a little video that went viral just a matter of weeks ago. This is in the Gallagher Premiership in England. Bath against Gloucester at the Rec in Bath. And as Gregor Townsend referenced, 12 kicks in a row where particularly Bath, Finn Russell's team, ironically enough, have identified what they are required and not required to do. And you can see that's, is that Will Muir? Anyway, Bath's backs are well ahead of the player kicking the ball, And all they're doing is waiting for Gloucester to move 5 metres. At which point, they're onside again. And this is a farce. Bath not even bothering to retire. And so the fans, particularly at international level, you pay a lot of tickets to go and watch Bath play. They're sitting and watching 25 out of the 30 men standing still in the middle of the park, and 2 guys at the back walloping the ball back and forward. This is, and this happens a lot, it's the law of unintended consequences. You create one law, someone identifies a loophole or spots a little law, and it completely changes the nature of the game. So I've just got to say well done to Super Rugby for actually trying to tackle what has become a bit of an issue. Will it actually solve the issue? So basically what Super Rugby have done for their upcoming season later this year is they are making sure that that law, the 5 metre law, is removed. They are going to have it so that you're only onside again when the kicker or a chaser runs past you. And until that point, you are out of the game. And this is to try and incentivise attacking rugby and de-incentivise kicks. And you would think the effect this is going to have is if someone does kick long, you're going to have to chase, and that will leave holes in the backfield. And eventually, you might be short-numbered out back and you have to play. And the players that are just walking around in the middle of the park aren't going to be able to actually involve themselves in the game until someone plays them onside. You see, I coach like my son's level, and I think that's what most referees at lower levels thought the law was. I think there's a lot of rugby fans and even people that play the game that are only just realising, because of high-profile incidents like the weekend against France, like that Bath Gloucester game that went viral, are actually now only understanding what the law is because, again, of Antoine Dupont. So here's the thing, right? There's never a silver bullet in rugby. There's trade-offs, there's risk, reward, and you've seen it so many times. There's an issue in rugby, someone tries to change a law, and what you don't realise is it solves that part, but it causes lots of other problems. So one thing that could happen, I was thinking, what could the unintended consequences of this law change in Super Rugby be? I'd love to know what you think about this. Potentially, it will just mean there won't be as much kicking long, and you might get loads more box kicking. Potentially. That might be the unintended consequence. You get loads more box kicking. If that is the case, then can I just preemptively say, referees at Super Rugby, do yourselves a favour, enforce the 5-second rule so that teams can't form the caterpillar, because that's the other thing I would want to get rid of straight away. Once again, and this is the issue with rugby. I love the sport, obviously. I sit here jabbering about it all the time with you, and thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. But rugby doesn't help itself. It is complicated, isn't it? Like, I've just had to go into law 10.7.1 to explain something that we saw on the pitch at the weekend, and you cannot expect casual rugby fans, or even people that play the game at lower levels, you cannot expect them to understand this, and to have to go into that level of nuance is one of the things that I do think holds rugby back a little bit. There has to be a way with the law book we have, which is that thick, to just strip a load of it out and just go back to some core principles and see where we go from there. Not sometimes always, and this is where I actually quite like what Super Rugby are doing. They're not adding a law to try and change the game. They're taking one out. And I think this might actually be the way to go. Let's get rid of a load of laws. Just get rid of them. Let's make it simpler for people to understand, simpler for people to explain, and then we'll welcome in more and more people and hopefully get back to the core principles of what rugby is about. And I love a tactical kicking battle. I love scrummaging. I would never want to depower the scrum. I'd never want to remove kicking from the game. I'll tell you what rugby without kicking looks like. And this could be an unintended consequence of this law, of what happens at Super Rugby, which is why I'm glad it's a law trial that World Rugby have approved, and they're not just going straight away, everyone we're doing it straight away. Let's see what it looks like first, because I'll tell you what rugby without kicking looks like. It looks like, at the end of a game, when one team has to score a try, and they cannot kick because then they'd give away possession and the game might be over. Defences don't even bother defending the backfield. They stack their defence, everyone on their feet, don't compete at the breakdowns, stand off, and it just becomes like, you know, a team running into a brick wall again and again, and really hard to break down. So that is why kicking is so important, and I would never want it to be gone from the game. I actually say fair play Antoine Dupont for spotting what nobody else before him had spotted. Now other people are cottoning onto it. Maybe something needs to be done about it, but maybe not. Maybe, and this is the challenge, I guess, is there a rugby brain like Antoine Dupont or Gregor Townsend for Scott, Finn Russell? He's the kind of guy you could imagine working something out. If a team does do this, what are the opportunities that presents? What are the things that a team might be able to do to counteract it? And that's the way rugby works. I bet Rassi Erasmus is already thinking about it. I bet all international coaches are already having a little think about it. So yeah, let me know if you've got any thoughts on that. There we go. Kind of a stodgy topic, perhaps, getting into laws and stuff, but let me know what you think. If you enjoyed the topic, if you enjoyed it, then it would really help me to give a thumbs up. That helps spread the word. And as I say, love to have your subscription on the channel. I'm Tim. This is Egg Chasers. I'll see you on the next one.